General Yang Xiaojun was sulking with his beloved. At the night banquet, he hid a stem of late magnolia and called out, "Whoever finds this flower shall be the general's wife." The noble women all turned their heads and searched around for the late magnolia's trace. I said nothing and quietly kicked the flower away from behind my seat. The next moment, Yang Xi's casual voice sounded, "I wonder which young lady has picked up my flower." Miss Shen gasped, bent down, and picked up the late magnolia. Still wet with dew, her cheeks blushing as she held the flower. I found it." She stole a quick glance at Yang Xi, then shyly lowered her head. This scene was clearly familiar. In my previous life, the one who picked up the flower was me. The flower had been hidden behind my seat. Back then Yang Xi only stood there and smiled faintly. Later I learned he was merely sulking. The woman he loved had married someone else at the frontier, so he vowed to marry to prove he had let go. Who he married did not really matter to him. For a moment, everyone looked envyingly at Miss Shen beside me. Young General Yang Xi came from a noble house and was the Empress's nephew. He went to war at 13, commanded troops at 15, and at 20 crushed an enemy force of 20,000 with 3,000 iron cavalry, his name resounding across the land. He was Daliang's most dazzling young general and the dream of countless noblewomen. Now he stood in the hall, red robes fluttering, silver armor gleaming. A man like that hid a flower at a night banquet and said he would marry whoever found it, who wouldn't be moved. So it turns out to be Miss Shen. The Empress on the dais smiled faintly. "Then I shall decide." Before she finished, a gust of wind suddenly swept through the hall. The wind was strange. The palace doors were closed, the beaded curtains hung low, yet all the candles flickered as one, almost going out. The flower in Miss Shen's hand was blown away by that sinister gust. Before everyone's eyes, the sprig of late magnolia whirled across half the great hall and, without missing by an inch, landed on my knee. The hall fell silent. The Empress looked at me in surprise. "Second Miss Xue, you seem fated with Aki." Yang Xi smiled indifferently. "If that's the case, then marry her." In my previous life I would have blushed and had my heart pounding. But now I felt only icy cold. I did not hesitate. I knelt immediately to cut him off. "Your servant dares not." "Your servant already has someone she admires." I found an excuse and left the banquet. The night wind struck my face, carrying the chill of early spring. The late magnolias in the rear hall shone white under the moon. I drew a deep breath. Only then did I realize I had returned to this night banquet. Back to the 16-year-old who had not yet been bound by fate. Last life. When I found that sprig behind your seat, I thought heaven had shown me mercy. I never imagined it would be the last bit of joy. In this life, when I married into the general's household in my previous life, the whole capital was watching for a joke. I heard General Yang didn't even bother to look at her face. He just placed the flower there casually. With her lowly origins, can she really aim so high? Even if she marries in, she'll suffer. On the wedding night, Yang Xi did not come. Near dawn, a maid quietly told me the general had lain down in his study. I lifted the bridal veil myself and drank the nuptial wine. The wedding candles on the table had burned out, their red wax hanging low. Early the next morning, Yang Xi returned to the frontier without a word. From then on everyone in the mansion knew the general did not care for his new bride. My mother-in-law often made things difficult and scolded me. "From such a small household, you simply aren't fit for the public stage. If you can't even keep your husband, what use are you?" I knelt on the floor, afraid to lift my head, tears swirling in my eyes. Asking myself over and over, "Xue Zhuxian, what did you do wrong? Your mistake was marrying a husband who did not love you. But your whole life you were never in control." In the 5th year of the marriage, Yang Xi returned from the frontier. He came back late one night, though exhausted. I followed the household rules and sat in the front hall with a lamplit waiting for him. Yang Xi must have long forgotten those rules. He looked very surprised to see me. "You're still awake." I smiled obediently. Waiting for the general, Yang Xi's eyes shifted slightly, and after a long moment he embraced me and sighed. "You've worked hard, madam. From now on, I won't leave." I was stunned. My long-dead heart suddenly twitched. That night he did not leave. His kisses were fierce, almost leaving me breathless. "Husband." He gripped my waist, his voice hoarse. Call me General, and I'll spare you." After that night, he was like a youth awakening to love, every few days bringing me little things for a girl. Hairpins and ornaments, candied fruits and pastries. I didn't know then that his return to the capital this time was because the woman in his heart had borne a child, just as when he married me years ago, it was because the woman he loved had married someone else. I knew nothing. I was simply and purely happy. I thought life was finally going to get better, until that night. Yang Ci stumbled into my room drunk. This time he didn't put out the light, he just sat by the couch and looked me over. He had never looked at me with such tender eyes. Then he called me Changhuan. I felt as if I'd fallen into an ice house. Who did not know Meng Changhuan, the realm's only female general, with brilliant military achievements, as famous as Yang Ci, on her white horse with red tassels? How dashing she was. That night Yang Ci's actions were different from before, unusually gentle, yet I kept crying. The moon was a glaring white, melting into my tears and becoming my pupils. I saw that banquet from many years ago, the young general throwing the evening magnolia behind my seat in a petulant fit. I saw the back residence of the general's mansion over these years, how I counted each passing watch and wept, enduring until dawn. The pain nearly killed me, and Yang Ci was completely unaware. He leaned over me, his shadow almost consuming me, yet tenderly, lingeringly, he kept calling, Changhuan, Changhuan. In the years that followed, I kept to my duties and treated him with the courtesy of strangers. Even the most critical mother-in-law could find no fault. I once heard Yang Ci and his subordinate sigh, "The Shui lady is virtuous, but Jushin's heart was never mine." My heart died long ago at the frontier. I had long since stopped caring, yet for some reason my heart still ached. Later, Meng Changhuan died in battle. Yang Ci locked himself in his study and would see no one. I didn't want to bother him, but his officers were helpless and begged me to go in and see the general. When I entered, the study was unlit. Yang Ci took me in his arms from behind. "Meng Changhuan, don't go." His voice was slurred, broken with sobs. "You married, I've accepted it. You had a child, I've accepted it. But why did you have to die?" On the desk lay many unsent letters. I saw that each was addressed Changhuan. I stood in the dark and listened to his crying for a long, long time. Then I decided to grant him his wish. I pulled those ardent, weighty letters out one by one and spread them on the floor. I was naturally timid and had never done anything outrageous in my life. I didn't even dare to speak loudly. But now, suddenly, I no longer wanted to live like that. I set the letters alight without waking him. The love letters burned to ashy curls, pale and shriveled like joss paper for funerals. "General Meng is dead. You are so devoted, you should accompany her." The firelight played over my face, flickering. I stroked Yang Ci's face and whispered gently, "Do you hear? She's so lonely. Yang Ci, go keep her company. Go die. I've already burned your love letters for her. You're next." Flames leapt up and licked the hem of his robe. I rose and walked into the night. I did not know where I was going. I could not return to the Shui household, and the Yang household was not my home. The world was so vast. But where could I go? A footman ran past me in panic, shouting that the water was rising, that the general was still in the study, urging someone to call the madam. Ridiculous. I thought, what would calling the madam do? The madam would not put out the fire. I looked at my reflection in the pond. She always kept her eyes down, like a clay bodhisattva, temperamentless and at others' mercy. Now, though, her brows arched and she was laughing aloud, she said to me, "Shui Jushin, you are free." At the instant the reflection in the pond shattered. The bright moon crossed the corridor. I looked to the branch of the evening magnolia and recalled the recent night banquet. Yang Ci was still the familiar young general, insolent, indifferent, aloof only. When I refused the marriage, did a hint of annoyance show. "Don't worry, I'm not about to marry you." As I was thinking this, a cold laugh sounded in my ear. "That fool!" A chill crawled down my spine. I turned sharply. At the end of the corridor, in a dim glow, stood someone. His skin was pale, his pupils pitch black, and under the moonlight he cast no shadow. No, I thought, not a person. He was the vengeful spirit that the inferno of a past life had failed to burn away, crawling up from the Ashes. A cold breath brushed my neck as he called to me with a smiling voice. My wife. Ah. I sighed softly, what a pity. Yang Si drew close with a half-smile. I could even feel the chill that clung to him. You look regretful. Yes. I curved my eyes and spoke softly. You regret not burning the general to ash. Yet here you are, neither quite alive nor dead, back to see me. The night wind suddenly rose. Yang Si gently stroked my face. You are my lawful wife, between the underworld and the living. Of course I will be with you. News of my refusal to marry spread through the capital within 3 days. Rumors on the streets grew wilder until they became, Miss Shui II scorns young General Yang, and Miss Shui II already had an affair. The Shui family had never been well born. My father was only a 5th-rank imperial official. My mother's only wish in life had been to see me married decently. Well, the Yang family is such a fine household, how many people would jump at the chance to connect with them? You're unbelievable, rejecting a marriage in front of everyone, and babbling about some person you fancy. Mother wipes her eyes. Tell me, who is that man? I lower my gaze. I don't want to marry Yang Si only because of this person. Mother's tears flowed more violently, as if I had committed a grave sin. But what did I do wrong? My only fault is that I don't want to marry someone I don't like and who doesn't like me. I have been reborn once. I refuse to live that kind of life again. At dusk, the specters revealed themselves. See, who would dare marry you? Yang Si sneered lightly. Even if you could start over, you'd still only be able to choose me. He had been following me for many days, unseen by day and appearing at night. Sometimes he stood under the corridor, sometimes he sat on the beam, and more often he pressed close behind me, whispering to himself. I didn't mind. He didn't even have a fleshly body, just a lone wandering spirit. His greatest power was at most to stir up that gust of chill wind over the night feast. I retorted, choose you. You're already dead, but I'm still alive. Whoever marries me needn't trouble themselves. Yang Si was pricked in his sore spot, staring at me intently. You refused the marriage in court. He won't let you off. I smiled softly. Did that fire also fry his brain? If he wants to watch a comedy, he should look in the mirror himself. You mean that little thing? I'm waiting. 7 on the day of the spring hunt. The sky was clear and the air crisp. I hadn't intended to come, but the Empress had sent an invitation. Whose idea it was needn't be said. General Yang still cares about you. Mother finally stopped crying and, holding my hand, chattered on. Zhu Xin, this is an enormous honor. You mustn't be willful anymore. An enormous honor, or an enormous joke. I lowered my eyes and fell silent. The Empress's canopy smelled of fine osmanthus pear, and the noble women sat in 2s and 3s, whispering. Is that Miss Shui's second daughter? She actually refused General Yang's proposal in public, truly ungrateful. I had heard those words countless times in my past life. Back then, when I married into the general's household, they mocked me for marrying above my station. Now that I refused the match, they said I didn't know how to appreciate it. Amid their laughter, Yang Si arrived. Half the noble ladies in the tent were blushing. Today he wore a dark riding outfit, broad-shouldered and narrow-waisted, his posture upright. After paying his respects to the Empress, his gaze lightly fell on me. Miss Shui II is here as well. I didn't respond, and he didn't mind. The Empress smiled. You're not going to the hunting grounds, but you've come to pay your respects to me. No hurry. Yang Si smiled. Auntie has good tea here. I'll take a sip before I go. As he spoke, he lowered his head and looked at me. Miss Shui, has your beloved arrived today? I looked up at him. He sat with a lazy posture, a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth. In these past days he had investigated me thoroughly, and of course discovered that the beloved was something I had made up offhand. I, your subject, have no beloved. Yang Si, at that banquet, who was it that said, that day I, a minister's daughter, was unwell and spoke improperly? I lowered my eyes, adopting a humble posture. I beg General Shao's forgiveness. The tent fell silent for a moment as the noble ladies exchanged glances. Yang Si, however, let out a laugh. Thoroughly cold and arrogant. Shui Zhuxin, this isn't up to you, whether you like it or not. You picked my flower, so you're mine. 8. The hunting ground was in the mountains. Before entering the mountain, The empress took my hand, insisting that I ride with her. That child Ci is clumsy with words. But he cares about you, she said with a worried smile. Look at him. He insists on marrying you. I hung my head in fearful humility. The empress measured me with her eyes a few times, puzzled over how Yang Ci could have taken a liking to me. Increasingly concerned, the carriage moved slowly forward along the path into the mountain. The spring breeze blew by, carrying the scent of flowers. Everything was very pleasant. I felt the handkerchief in my sleeve. Before we entered the mountain, a noble girl wearing a goose-yellow jacket had slipped it to me, saying there were many mosquitoes in the woods and giving it to me to repel them. I remember her. The banquet of this life began when she was the first to pick Yang Ci's flower and brought it into the queen's tent. When Yang Ci said he would marry me, her eyes went red. I didn't push, pretended to be startled and accepted it. In my past life, I heard the elders in the residence mention a spice from the borderlands that does no harm to people but drives wild beasts mad. I didn't expect in this life someone would use that trick on me. What a pity. The carriage traveled down a secluded forest path. I quietly slipped the handkerchief into the seam of the cushion. This spot was very close to the queen, so close that if a wild beast attacked, it would never lunge at anyone else first. The queen was still chatting and laughing with the noblewoman beside her. Completely unaware, the forest suddenly fell silent. No birdsong, no insect calls. Not even the sound of the wind remained. A roar suddenly exploded from within the woods. A ferocious beast. Protect the carriage. Quickly, protect the carriage. But it was already too late. In an instant, a white-browed, droop-eyed tiger lunged at the carriage. So fast the guards had no time to react. The empress's face went deathly pale. At the critical moment, I stepped in front of her. Everyone cried out in shock. Just as the tiger lunged, I spun and drew the jeweled dagger at the queen's waist and drove it hard into its neck. Warm blood spurted out, but the tiger's movement did not stop. Its paw landed on my shoulder, instantly tearing flesh open. I was flung through the air and slammed hard onto the ground. The tiger was thoroughly enraged, growling as it advanced toward me. The dagger was still stuck in its neck. I had lost my weapon and could only push myself backward with my hands. The wound on my shoulder throbbed painfully, blood running down my arm and dragging a red streak across the ground. The tiger closed in step by step, a feral gleam in its eyes. Not far away, the guards were running over in a panic. Hold on a little longer, just hold on. But the tiger didn't give me a chance. It opened its mouth, revealing rows of stark white fangs, a fishy stench rushing at my face. My hand scrabbled blindly over the ground, grabbed a fistful of sand, and flung it at its eyes. In the instant the tiger's movement stalled, I rolled to the side and snatched up a branch. Holding it across my chest, the tiger leapt at me in fury, my pupils contracting. In that moment, time seemed to slow to a crawl. In a flash of lightning, a white light streaked across my eyes. A red, tasseled spear tore through the air, driving straight into the tiger's skull. The tiger's massive body crashed to the ground, and a rain of blood drenched me. The young general planted a foot on the tiger's head, crouched down, and looked at me. So bold, the voice was clear and bright, with a hint of teasing. It was clearly a woman. She arched a brow, holding a little twig. And you dare poke a tiger? I froze. From behind me came Yang Ci's trembling voice. Chang Huan, 9. Yang Ci was both shocked and delighted. When did you get back? Why didn't you tell me? I would have come to pick you up. General Yang, Meng Changhuan interrupted him, her tone polite yet distant. I returned to the capital by imperial decree and happened to pass through here. There's no need to trouble yourself. Yang Ci's hand tightened and then relaxed, and his gaze fell on me. Oh, Changhuan, he said as if he'd suddenly remembered something. Let me introduce you. This is my fiancé, Xue Zhuxin. He spoke casually. But his eyes never left Meng Changhuan. He expected her to be surprised, disappointed, to care even a little. But Meng Changhuan only said oh, then glanced at me and then at Yang Ci. Fiancé? She asked. Yes. Yang Ci wore his usual nonchalant smile. She looked suitable at the banquet. So I casually arranged it. Meng Changhuan clicked her tongue again and again. Yang Ci's smile froze. What's wrong? Meng Changhuan didn't answer him. She just looked at me, tilting her head in puzzlement. Xue Zhuxin, How could you possibly fancy him? Yang Xi's expression changed. I was stunned too. Before I could answer, Meng Changhuan briskly tore off a sleeve and gave my wound a quick bandage. Yang Xi stood where he was, his face alternating between pale and livid. Changhuan, what do you mean by that? Your fiancé is hurt. And instead of asking if she's in pain, you're here squabbling with me, Meng Changhuan said calmly. Besides, both of us are already betrothed. General Yang, have some restraint. After speaking, she lifted me up sideways. She smelled of a pleasant, clear soap scent that was so soothing it made me want to fall asleep. I clenched my palm, forcing myself to stay awake, and whispered, General Meng, I can walk on my own. Meng Changhuan glanced down at me without saying a word. I bit my lip and repeated it. She still ignored me and carried me steadily forward. I had to reach out to push her shoulder, but the moment my hand touched her lapel, she grabbed my wrist. Her gaze fell on my palm, full of crescent-shaped marks left by pinched nails. My face turned ashen, a kind of shy embarrassment at being seen through. The next moment, I heard her softly sigh. It's so painful and you still pretend you're fine, Xue Zhuxian. You must have suffered a lot. 10. I was woken by the pain. The wound on my shoulder felt like it was being seared by fire. I instinctively curled up. As soon as I came in, a cold voice said, Don't move. The light in the tent was dim, only a small lamplit. A young man sat at the edge of the couch, head bowed over a medical book. He had a handsome, delicate face. His brows and eyes bore a 7/10 resemblance to Meng Changhuan's, but lacked that bold, bright temperament. Instead there was an aloofness. He closed the medical book and glanced up at me. I just stitched your wound. If you pull it open, I can't promise I can sew it up neatly. I hesitated and blinked. Dr. Meng. I had heard of him, Meng Changning, the youngest chief physician in the Imperial Medical Office. Rumor in the capital said his medical skill was godlike. No matter how difficult the illness, he could bring people back from death. But his temperament was indifferent and unapproachable. He treated the emperor with a stern face and wouldn't smile extra. Meng Changning replied casually, walked to the table, and lifted his brush to write a prescription. My sister told me to take care of you. She said you're bold, so I should keep an eye on you. Don't let you torment yourself to death. I pressed my lips together. He looked up at me. If you have something to say, say it. What about General Meng? I asked. Meng Changning clicked his tongue, a look that said I thought so. She had something to attend to and couldn't leave, but she was worried about you, so she sent me. I whispered my thanks, but he said, I didn't want to come. He glanced at me. I'm too lazy to save people who don't value their lives. But the Empress ordered me to tend to your wounds. The person was fine, but his mouth offered no kind words and he was muttering complaints. Meng Changning set a small Celadon bottle by my pillow. I'll change the medicine once a day. If it hurts, take one pill. Don't be a hero. I silently took back my previous remark. All right. There was one kind thing said. After Meng Changning left, I toyed with the little Celadon bottle and asked lightly, had your fill of looking, where the candlelight cannot reach, ghosts reveal themselves. Xue Zhuxian, you're ruthless. He stepped out of the shadows, letting the moonlight pass through his body, sneering. Do you think I can't see what you're plotting? I didn't speak. His voice went hoarse. You went to all that trouble, nearly risking your life, just to break off our engagement. As our eyes met, the emotions in his gaze were plain to see: shocked anger, bewilderment, and unwillingness. A lifetime as husband and wife. Do you truly have no heart? I laughed in surprise. A bamboo heart is empty to begin with. There's nothing wrong with that. Bamboo is resilient because it's hollow, the wind can't break it, and snow can't bend it. He stared in a daze, a mist veiling his eyes. Can ghosts shed tears? I was puzzled. But then I thought, he doesn't even have a body, where would the tears come from? It's nothing but obsession at work. What deep affection is he pretending to have? Exactly. Thinking that, I asked, after watching the show for so many days, do you really not find yourself disgusting? 11. After that night, I never saw that ghost again. I spent half a month nursing my injuries and gradually regained mobility. Meng Changning still came every day to change the dressings, in and out in a hurry, speaking no more than 5 sentences. One day, I voluntarily spoke the 6th sentence. Imperial Physician Meng, I want to learn medicine. He was packing his medicine box. His hand paused and he looked up at me. Oh, what does O mean? I soon found out, the next day, when Meng Chongning came to change my dressings. He brought a box of books, Huangdi Neijing, Shanghan Lun, Jinkue Yarolu, Shenong Benkao Jing, Nanjing. Piled higher than I was, Meng Chongning said calmly, "See." I casually opened a book, which even had his annotations. I curved my eyes. These medical books were not unfamiliar to me. In my previous life at the general's mansion, I had plenty of time, no one to speak with, no visitors. The only pastime was reading. The mansion's library had a shelf of medical books that I read over and over until I could recite them. Only some parts were obscure and deep, and with no one to ask, I couldn't fully understand them. But now, with Meng Chongning's notes, I quickly grasped what I hadn't in my former life. When Meng Chongning came again on the 7th day, he heard me smiling brightly. "Imperial Physician Meng, I've finished the book." Meng Chongning, he wore a half-smile as he picked up the Huangdi Neijing. "Ling Shu, recite it." I opened my mouth and began, "The Yellow Emperor asked Chibwa, I govern the myriad people, nourish the commoners and collect their taxes. I pity those who have no means, yet they fall ill." I wasn't very fast and sometimes had to pause to think, but not a single word was wrong. Meng Chongning silently picked up another one. "Zongfu Jing Luo Xin Hu Bing Mai Zheng Yi." I answered smoothly. Question: why does the top-level physician treat untreated illness? Master said, "Those who treat untreated illness, when you see liver disease, know that the liver affects the spleen. You should first strengthen the spleen. When the spleen is in all 4 seasons and does not accept, do not supplement it." The middle-level physician does not understand the principle of transmission. Seeing liver disease, he does not understand how to strengthen the spleen, only treats the liver. After I recited this passage, I stopped and looked at him. A satisfied expression appeared in Meng Chongning's eyes. He took a medical case from the medicine box and placed it in front of me, saying, "Read it through and tell me where the prescription is wrong." He pulled over a chair, sat opposite me, and quietly watched me read. At dusk, I closed the case and returned it to him. He skimmed my annotations, then smiled softly. "What you said is indeed controversial." The Grand Hospital argued about it for 2 days and finally used a compromised formula. He looked at me intently and added, "But none of them are as sound as the new formula you drafted." In the end he only said, "Continue tomorrow." I blinked, and suddenly felt like crying and laughing. "Shuej Washin, your past life was not wasted. Even if you walked in the dark at night, every step counted." The back courtyard of the Grand Hospital became my daily destination. I learned very quickly, and even Meng Chongning was astonished by my talent. But in 2 months, the prescriptions I wrote could already be kept as medical records. One day I was sorting herbs when the small courtyard gate was kicked open with 1 foot. "Miss Shuer, what a refined taste you have." Yang Ci stood above me, looking down from on high. "I have been looking for you for most of half a month, and you were hidden here." I stood up, answered firmly and without humility, "I am studying medicine at the Grand Hospital." "Studying medicine?" Yang Ci sneered. "You are about to be married soon. What use is studying medicine?" I looked at him in astonishment. "I have broken off my engagement." Yang Ci's face changed drastically. "Who said so?" "Your Majesty the Empress," I said calmly. "Half a month ago, I asked Your Majesty for a favor, and you agreed." The general didn't know. After I woke up, the Empress had promised me a favor, and I immediately asked to break off the engagement with Yang. The Empress was silent for a long time and said, "Aki, that child is somewhat immature, but you need not." I interrupted her softly. "I am not acting out of spite." Seeing my resolve, the Empress stopped persuading me. Yang may have heard about it, but he did not believe it. Now he stood before me, his face ashen. "Shui Zhuxin, have you gone mad?" I looked back at him calmly. Yang opened his mouth, and his gaze suddenly fell on Meng Chongning in the room. Meng Chongning was bent over a book, as if completely unaware of the commotion. Yang stared at him for a moment, then, as if realizing something, said, "You broke our engagement for this pretty face." I frowned. "Physician Meng is only my teacher." Yang sneered. "A man and a woman alone in a room, and you call him merely your teacher." I never knew the palace harbored such depravity. I raised my hand and slapped him, saying coldly, General Yang, watch your tongue. I studied medicine under physician Meng, which was also permitted by Her Majesty the Empress. Yang left long ago. I still stood there dazed. His parting words echoing in my ears, you think breaking the engagement makes you free? Let me tell you, Xue Zhuxian, I especially enjoy making things difficult for people, whether dead or alive, they haunt me, I thought expressionlessly. Hand, Meng Changning's voice came from behind. I turned, he had somehow stepped out and said, hold out your hand. He glanced at my reddened palm. I whispered, I didn't pinch anyone, he responded lightly, making progress. I fell into thought, those siblings really are cut from the same mold. 13 Lately, Yang Ci has been very annoyed that the news of his second broken engagement has spread throughout the capital. With the Empress's approval, he doesn't even have room to refute it. RCI, second Miss Xue saved me, and I cannot refuse her. The Empress spoke gently, yet with firm resolve. Aunt knows as well that you are not lacking this one. But he simply couldn't swallow this insult. Has Yang Ci ever lacked any kind of girl he wished to marry? Yet the daughter of a mere fifth-rank minor official not only refused the proposal in public, but even took the initiative to withdraw from the engagement. Now the entire capital is laughing at him. Have you heard? Miss Schwerer has broken off things with General Yang Xiao. That's not broken off things, it's called calling off the engagement. What's the difference? It's the same, she's the one who doesn't want him anymore. These days, he kept replaying that scene in the mountains, Xue Zhuxian holding a branch, covered in blood but with resolute eyes. He was restless, unable even to care about Meng Changhuan. Yang Ci crushed the wine cup in his hand, the shards cut his fingers, blood gushing out. A cold laugh sounded from the study. Is that all you've got? Yang Ci suddenly drew his sword, when he turned back, he found himself staring eye to eye with another version of himself, the man's face as pale as gold foil, eyes like drops of lacquer, yet under the moonlight he cast no shadow. Yang Ci's pupils tightened sharply. What are you? Me. That thing gave a brief smile. I am you. The ghost told him a few things. For example, in a past life, he and Xue Zhuxian had been husband and wife. Later, he died at her hands. Yang Ci laughed. What kind of joke is that? Are you talking about that wooden-faced woman? The ghost looked at him. If you look down on her like that, how did you end up being rejected by her? Yang Ci could no longer smile. What did you come to see me for? He turned his face away, his tone stiff. A ghost drifted over. Teach you how to win her back. Yang Ci acted as if he'd heard the biggest joke in the world. Why should I win her back? A woman who broke off our engagement. The ghost imitated his daytime manner, reciting flatly. I'm telling you, Xue Zhuxian, I happen to like forcing people against their will. Yang Ci fell into a strange silence. You heard that too, the ghost scoffed, still putting on a brave face. That night, Yang Ci didn't sleep a wink. His mind was filled with what that ghost had said. You simply haven't lost her. You'll regret it. Regret treating her that way. Go take a look, see what she does every day, see what kind of person she is. Yang Ci couldn't help but follow. And then, ghost, then, just like me, you won't die in peace. 14 Strangely compelled, Yang Ci listened to that ghost, and even he didn't know why. It was early summer, the locust trees, branches and leaves thick, they just hid his figure. He hid in the tree, secretly watching Xue Zhuxian. Sometimes he saw her slowly dividing herbs, pounding medicine, and boiling decoctions. Sometimes he saw her sitting opposite Meng Changning, head down writing prescriptions, occasionally looking up to ask something, to which Meng Changning would answer, and she would nod and continue writing. This was a Xue Zhu he had never seen before, so dazzling you can't look away. He turned and left, then came back the next day, then the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day. He told himself, just came to see what exactly Xue Zhuxian is capable of to break off his engagement, until one day half a month later it rained. She held up an umbrella holding a food box in her right hand. Yang Ci stood in the rain, watching her take out a few pastries from the food box and ladle out a bowl of hot porridge, pushing it in front of Meng Changning. Meng Changning frowned, looking very resistant. Xue Zhuxian blinked. If you don't eat during the hour of Chen, the stomach becomes weak and can't receive food. The spleen is feeble and can't transform it, and there's no source for the generation of qi and blood. Over time, various deficiencies will arise. Meng Changning paused for a moment, then honestly picked up the bowl. Xue Zhuxin smiled with narrowed eyes and said, "That's more like it." Yang Ci suddenly felt that the scene before his eyes was harsh to look at. He had never eaten a meal she cooked. That damned ghost had been her husband. I wonder if he ever ate it at that moment. Yang Ci was unbearably jealous. He thought for a day and a night. The next morning, he blocked Xue Zhuxin on her way to the palace. The young general, long used to being admired by all, didn't know how to show affection. He simply walked straight up to her and awkwardly said, "Xue Zhuxin, I'll teach you martial arts." He had been thinking for a long time and thought this was a good idea. When she killed the tiger last time, she had nothing but bravery. If she met danger again, relying on reckless courage alone would lead to disaster sooner or later. Besides, the martial arts he could teach her were certainly better than the herbs Meng Changning kept fiddling with. Xue Zhuxin, however, refused. "No need to trouble yourself. Someone is already teaching me." Yang Ci was stunned. "Who?" "Meng Changning, that sickly weakling. He can't even kill a chicken." Xue Zhuxin fell silent for a moment, then actually retorted, "He can kill a chicken." Yang Ci was practically about to grab, "Is that the point?" Xue Zhuxin, he decided to see for himself what was going on. Dusk, he found Xue Zhuxin in the grove west of the city. She was dressed lightly for riding, her hair tied up high, a wooden sword in her hand. Meng Changhuan stood behind her, one hand holding her wrist, the other pressed at her side to adjust her stance. After fixing her posture, he stepped back 2 paces, folded his arms, and watched her practice. Yang Ci looked dazed and forlorn for a long time. His knuckles turned white. "What kind of person are you, sneaking around here like this?" the ghost scolded. "Disappointed, like a stray dog no one wants." Yang Ci spun around suddenly, staring hard at the face that was exactly like his own. "Then I want to ask you, what did you do to her? Why would she rather fight that fierce tiger than marry you?" Yang Ci fixed his gaze on the eyes that looked away, and suddenly understood everything. "You said you were married in a past life." In her heart, "You were more terrifying than any beast." The ghost's lips moved, but not a single word came out. The youthful self looked back with a cold smile. Just as he suddenly looked back at those years of his past life, a long, deathly silence, and one of his selves, he didn't know which, was the first to break it with a single remark, "She actually hates you so much." 15 Meng Changhuan was about to return to the border. Military affairs there were pressing. She submitted a memorial and would set out the day after tomorrow. I thought about it all night and went to the training grounds to find her the next day. She had just finished practicing with the spear, sweat still on her brow. She planted the spear in the ground and leaned against its shaft, waiting for me to speak. "General Meng," I looked up at her. "I heard the army is short of physicians." She raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to continue. "I've been studying medicine for half a year. I can treat typhoid, sword wounds, and set bones." Meng Changning said I can finish my apprenticeship. I handed her the recommendation letter Meng Changning had written for me. "Actually, I'm far from truly finished. I just wanted to seize this opportunity." When Meng Changning heard my plan, he didn't ask much and quietly wrote the letter. I secretly opened it and read it. Normally sharp-tongued as he is, his words were astonishingly gentle when he put pen to paper. Strong-willed, superb medical skills, capable of handling responsibilities alone. I said, "I want to go with you to the frontier." But Meng Changhuan didn't look at that recommendation letter. "I know you, and I trust you." She patted my shoulder. "The day after tomorrow at the hour of the tiger, at the Tenli Pavilion outside the capital. If you're late, I won't wait." The afternoon sun was gently warm. I stood where I was, watching her ride away into the distance. In this world, how could anyone not love Meng Changhuan? A silver saddle gleams on a white horse, swift as a flowing current. Meng Changhuan, who lived freely and unrestrained between heaven and earth, and faced death with the same openness. I lowered my head and smiled gently. "I used to resent you a little, but now I realize, you're truly wonderful, so good that I too want to become like you." 16 I packed my bundle quickly, a few pieces of clothing, a set of silver needles, the medical book Meng Changning gave me, The dagger Meng Chenghuan sent me, that was all my belongings. I left a note for mother, and apart from the Meng siblings, I told no one that I was leaving. Night was deep when an unexpected guest arrived. Miss Schwerer, the general invites you to his residence for a chat. Before I could speak, a handkerchief was pressed over my mouth and nose, and my consciousness blurred. Instantly, when I woke, I was wearing a wedding dress I didn't know when I had changed into. At the edge of my vision, a pair of dragon and phoenix wedding candles burned dimly. This was the general's mansion, and the scene felt eerily familiar. My wife, a pair of cold hands helped me up. Yang Ci was dressed in a bright red wedding garment, his face wearing a strange, morbid expression. I could tell at a glance he was not the young Yang Ci. The red candles and dim silk canopy, the ghost general, whose wine cup I had burned to death pressed against my lips, his shadow enveloping me. On our wedding night that year, I deeply regretted not coming. If I had drunk that cup of nuptial wine back then, could we have lasted? I turned my face away in resistance. Why is it you? Did you kill him? Yang Ci squeezed my chin. Are you feeling sorry for me? He let out a soft laugh. We are essentially the same person. I counted the night watch calls coming from outside the window. He didn't say a word. The hour of yin is nearly past. Yang Ci saw through my thoughts. He said he had imitated my handwriting to send a letter to Meng Chenghuan, saying that after much deliberation I still wished to remain in the capital and earnestly hoped the general would understand. His eyes were red. Meng Chenghuan may go back. You cannot leave. I stared in a daze, trembling all over. You're insane. The tears fell. Living another life. Will it still be the same? Yang Ci saw my tears, panicked, and knelt before me, wanting to wipe them away. But the more he wiped, the more they fell. Sorry, his voice was trembling and he actually shed tears. I'm sorry, Jushin, I'm sorry. Please, give me one more chance. I will never fail you in this life. I looked at his humble, pleading expression and spoke each word slowly. I hate you. Yang Ci smiled through his tears. Then hate me, never forget me. He leaned closer, forehead against mine, our tears mingling together. If I can't have your love, having your hatred is fine too. His fingers threaded into my hair, gripping the back of my head, forcing me to look straight at his tearful eyes. In this life, you can only be entangled with me until death parts us. Could he actually cry? I wondered. At that moment, I suddenly realized the one shedding tears now was not him, but the youth Yang Ci. I saw two expressions tearing at Yang Ci's face. At times the frenzied madness of a vengeful ghost, at times the bewildered, agonized look of a young man. The two souls seemed not to have become one, fighting over this body. Get out of me, useless trash. We've come this far, and you still want to let her go. She said she hates you, can't you hear? She's unwilling. So what? I insist on forcing it. Don't you want it? Yang Ci let go and grabbed his own throat. While they were fighting fiercely, I ran away. Under the cover of night, I rode my horse down the long street. The hem of the wedding dress was too long and got caught in the stirrup. I bent down and tugged twice but couldn't free it, so I tore it off in one go. Dry weather. Be careful with fire. The night watchman carried his lantern, hunched as he passed the alley entrance, the candlelight flickering in the dark. The clappers whose sounds I once counted through tears were all left behind. This time, I don't have to wait bitterly for dawn. I will chase the sun myself. Forward, forward. Shut up. We're not the same. Yang Ci rolled in pain. I'm telling you, I will never become as pathetic as you. Gasping, he struggled to thrust the dagger into his chest. The instant blood gushed out, the ghostly struggle finally stopped. The young body slumped to the ground and at last was still. In that moment, Yang Ci remembered the Shui Jushin he once dreamed of. That was her in a former life. She neither cried nor laughed. In that four-sided back chamber, she quietly died, trapped for a lifetime. Yang Ci thought she shouldn't have lived such a life. Shui Jushin, this time no one will stop you. Go, go, don't look back. Yang Ci opened his eyes wide and stared at the open door. Night wind blew in. At the instant the red candle went out, the ghost let out a mournful wail. He had struggled so long, seized this body, put on the wedding clothes, lit the phoenix and dragon candles, and in the end, she still did not drink that cup of wine. The younger self finally learned to let go, but the ghost reborn into a new life remains trapped in obsession, with no way back. In the long night, the wind is lonely, and only the ghost's horse laughter is heard, whether spoken to him or to itself. You fell in love with her, Yang Ci, you will not rest in peace. This time, Yang Ci did not answer. Love, hate, and obsession tangled together in a complete mess. A cold wind howled. This was the deepest night before dawn, dew soaking my clothes, icy all over. My thoughts grew increasingly clear. The Shui family, the general's mansion, the capital city, all were left far behind me in the faint morning light. The outline of the city gate appearing, tall and silent. I did not hesitate, I charged out. At the moment the horse's hooves crossed the gate, it felt as if something snapped behind me, perhaps the umbilical cord of fate. I lifted my head to look at the moon. On the wide plain the moon had become a small star, no longer the weeping, mournful eye hung above the red-gated courtyards. Jushin, oh Jushin, so the world is this vast. Under the pavilion 10 li away, a rider stood motionless. Silver armor covered the body, a long spear leaning at an angle. The letter looks convincing, Meng Chenghuan appraised me, seeing I was travel-worn but my expression bright, and raised an eyebrow in surprise. I almost went back to fetch you. No need, I tilted my chin, just a small inconvenience. She didn't ask further, tossed me the water skin. Drink. The water was cool, sliding down my throat. Only when my racing heart finally calmed did I realize dawn had come. Morning light swept away the long night and changed the world. Meng Chenghuan swung into the saddle, looked back at me. Shall we go? Let's go, I smiled. Hurrying on our way is important. Past events were not worth mentioning. The world is vast, the road ahead